Luca, thank you so much for taking the time with me today. I'm excited to learn more about InSilicoTrials.
We are working on a very, very great moonshot. It's reduce the time and cost of development of drugs and medical devices. And we are aiming this with the use of modeling and simulation, so very complex digital tools that can avoid or reduce or refine traditional activity like testing on animals, labs, and humans.
Okay, let's break down what this means. So we're talking about using simulations instead of our traditional clinical trial process, which can involve human subjects or animal subjects.
Exactly.
How powerful is a clinical trial simulation? Can it replicate a typical clinical trial?
It's really powerful. To give you an idea, we are able, for example, to replicate a control arm for a multiple sclerosis trial in a matter of minutes instead of months. Yeah, that's a powerful modeling.
Yeah, so what are the ramifications when it comes to the speed to market? Let's just start with speed. You're trying to develop a therapeutic and you use modeling and your technology versus recruiting individuals. How much faster to market can you come?
Yeah, we have estimated that we are able to accelerate up to 40-50% the time to market. But it's very important to consider that modeling and simulation can support companies more on the failed development. 95% of new drugs will never become a product because you will find a problem throughout the development process. So it's also very useful to use modeling and simulation to kill the project as soon as possible. So you're able to focus your energy on something that has some opportunities. You avoid to go ahead for years for something that at the end will have some problem.
My understanding is that simulations like what you're describing are part of the reason we were able to get vaccines or therapies for COVID as quickly as we did. Is that true?
Exactly. So for COVID, we reached the vaccine in less than 1 year, but in the history of human life, we get vaccine in no less than 5 years before. So it took 5 years.
And you're saying that's largely because instead of having to recruit and study large groups of people, we're able to create synthetic populations. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, it was a combination of
both. Okay.
Combination of real patient with extrapolation and the use of modeling to understand in a synthetic population, virtual population, what will happen.
How do you think about the the risk to patients, and you'd mentioned earlier about animals in trials. What are some of the risks to clinical trials that simulations draw down?
First of all, the uncertainty of what you are going to prove, because if you're able to have more indication before the trial, you can optimize the trial itself in terms of size, in terms of population, and the result is that ideally you got to look for confirmation instead of asking questions. Then you de-risk also the safety of the product because you are able to test it before going to animals, before going to humans. And from the ethical point of view, it's quite relevant.
Yeah. Talk to us about the market for clinical trial simulation. I'm guessing that due to COVID and the push towards decentralized trials, that this is a hot market. And if you could kind of place InSilicoTrials within that market for us.
Yeah, we have to consider that, of course, everything related to clinical trial is ruled by regulators. There is a very interesting forecast by FDA that is telling that now there is just 8% of the data used for regulatory approval coming from computer-based simulation and algorithm. But what they are expecting is that in the future, there will be up to 48% of the data used for regulatory approval coming from virtual patient and computer-based simulation. So an incredible change in the market that, of course, will have the reduction of clinical trial, animal testing, and bench testing versus this kind of alternative methods. In Europe, there was just voted a regulation to ban the use of animals in the development of drugs and medical devices. So 12 million of animals per year will not be used anymore, and they will be a substitution by technology like InSilicoTrials or organ-on-chip. So alternative methods that will generate a lot of very important data for decision making, but also for regulatory approval.
that seems like it's obviously going to accelerate your business and this market as a whole. Are there drawbacks to simulations, things that are going to slow down that progress?
Well, of course, we are talking about something very innovative. And so the pharma medical device market is quite traditional.
Okay.
So you have to convince the people that it is something that they can do, also if they have not specific know-how about that.
Yeah.
So one big problem is that the know-how for modeling and simulation is not so common. So there is no, especially in small and medium enterprise, expert with that. And this is a problem in terms of adoption, because if you don't know a specific tool, you don't go for it. Another big problem that we are solving is the fact that modeling and simulation so far is mainly a matter of consultancy. So company go to research centers, go to university to ask for a model to be executed. Despite the fact that they are software, they are not used in a software way. They're used as a consultancy way. So InSilicoTrials is the platform where models coming from researchers are possible to be integrated, and then a company are able to use them through a web interface, so taking care of all the aspects linked to enterprise-grade solution, cybersecurity, no silos of data, reproducibility, and also opportunity to access the same tools by people and teams scattered through the world without limitation in terms of distribution of know-how that is embedded in the tools.
Got it. Last question, what's next for InSilicoTrials? Kind of what's your roadmap for the next year?
We are going to market heavily, so involving both big pharma, small and medium pharma, and medical devices company, because we're many pilot project going on. And we're targeting for the end of this year a second round of investment, because the first one in June 2020, so during COVID. And now we're targeting a second round to support R&D and model acquisition as well as commercialization. And we have already some interest from venture capitalists. So it could be that maybe we close it not at the end of the year, but maybe sooner.
Awesome. Luca, thank you so much for your time. This is an exciting development. A lot of it's over my head in terms of how simulations work, and those models as part of the differentiator is just being able to handle such complexity and make it make sense. But the ability to reduce the risk to patients in trials and animals in trials, the ramifications seem massive. So keep up the amazing work.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you very
Luca.
much. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.